It's time for another Out of Bounds Rewind with Bo Bounds on ESPN 105.9, The Zone.
We welcome in our friend, ESPN National College Football Analyst, Tom Luginbill. Lugs, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Good morning to you, buddy. I'm doing great. Good to be on with you as always.
Man, we're excited. Walker Howard, you know all about him. You have followed him for some time. Tell me what you thought about him in high school, and then we can kind of transition in the fact that he signed with LSU and now will be at Ole Miss.
I would compare him just to kind of give your listeners a sense of a frame of reference of somebody they're familiar with right now. He's a taller, probably more physically advanced version of Max Duggan. Tough, gritty, really good runner. I felt for him. You know, we had him at several events throughout his sophomore, junior year, and heading into his senior year. We invited him to the Under Armour All-America game. He ends up breaking his ankle at the latter part of his senior year and wasn't able to participate. And then I had LSU's spring game last year and got to see him. And, you know, obviously at the very crowded quarterback room, and Jaden Daniels took his extra year. Garrett Nussmeier is obviously the heir apparent. So I can see, you know, from Walker Howard's perspective, that, you know, it would be a long while before he'd probably be in the mix at LSU. So I like the pickup. I think it's really good. I think it adds to the quarterback room for Ole Miss. It adds to competition. Obviously, you know, Jaxson Dart's got a head start and a lot more snaps under his belt. But when you lose a Luke Altmaier and you can go out and replenish the room with a player of what I think is very high caliber, I think it's a huge get for Lane Kiffin.
There are some rumors that Spencer Sanders will go there too. Now, does that make any sense to you?
Well, I'll say this about Spencer Sanders. To answer, does it make sense? Yeah, because Spencer Sanders has done nothing but compete his entire career. I mean, he had to fight and scrap to be a starter early on at Oklahoma State. Then he gets hurt 2 years ago and loses his job temporarily to Shane Illingsworth, then gets the job back. I mean, this guy's a fighter. He's a scrapper. He's old school. I had Oklahoma State this year, and, you know, Mike Gundy said the one thing about him is he's either going to have a broken leg or you're going to have to cut off his throwing hand for him not to play. He's old school. He's kind of a throwback. So got a guy that's thrown for almost 10,000 yards. He's been in a variety of different spread offenses. It's a really good runner. If that happened, I mean, you talk about the ultimate in competition. But I also say this, if that happened, what does that say about the current feelings the Ole Miss coaching staff has on Jaxson Dart? Do they feel like he hasn't progressed to the level they'd like him to, that he had regressed, or that it just wasn't, maybe it's just not going down the path they thought? So I don't know. There's a lot of questions remain to be answered there.
Tom Luginbill on the Out of Bounds show. Dart Howard competition. You know, Dart's, like you said, he's got the edge. He's got more PT, and he's a year older. Would you be shocked if Howard beat him out? Or
yeah, I when I say that, I say yes, because he would have to do it in camp, and he would have to do it without any real live bullets flying by against a guy that's played an awful lot of football. And in order to do that, in order to beat somebody else like that out, you have to be so head and shoulders, in my opinion, in my experience too, my experience as a coach and my experience as a player. You and I have discussed this, but, you know, when I transferred into Georgia Tech out of junior college ranks, they had a starter that had started the previous 11 games the year before. Right? So, you know, and I had to go in spring and summer and fall camp and beat a guy out that's played a lot. And so you have to put yourself in a position to where every rep you're maximizing. Every time you have an opportunity, you're just head and shoulders better than the other guy. I just think it's difficult to do. Now, if Walker Howard had started 7 games this past year, now we're having a bit of a different conversation because the sample size of evaluation and knowing what you're getting is much higher.
Okay. Interesting. So he are you surprised he bailed at LSU, just considering dad's tie there. When I was in college, Jamie Howard was a quarterback there. And then he was from Lafayette, Louisiana. And he was highly where did you was he a top 5, top 10? Do you remember quarterback for y'all?
Yeah, he was a top, I think, 3 to 5 guy for us in the dual threat category. To answer your question, I'm not overly surprised because of the COVID year. You know, he didn't get the extra COVID year. So the redshirt year that he used, he now has 4 to play for, right? And because Jaden Daniels took that year and because Garrett Nussmeier's played a lot of football, that just – I can see it. I mean, I understand it. Could he have taken the risk of staying and competing and battling and then finding himself still being number 3 on the depth chart? Not because of anything he's done, just because of the older guys that have played more. So I can see it.
Don't miss one moment of the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Weekdays 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. on ESPN 105.9 The Zone.